A very big hello to all my dear students. This is a new channel that I have started to help the students of ICSE and ISC with the English syllabus. Today is the first session. In this class, I'll be teaching you the poem of class 9, a doctor's journal entry for August 6, 1945 by Vikram Seth. So without any further ado, I am coming straight to the poem. The morning stretched calm, beautiful and warm. Sprawling half-clad, I gazed out at the form of shimmering leaves and shadows. In the opening line, the poet gives or draws a beautiful picture of any general morning, which is with the sun shining brightly. It is warm, it is calm, everywhere the surrounding is very peaceful, and the morning as usual with the sunlight, with the clear blue sky, with the green trees around everywhere. It is beautiful. And what is the narrator doing, or how he is appearing in the poem? He says that he is sprawling half-clad. Half-clad means he is casually dressed, and sprawling, he is spreading himself in the bed. While looking out, I gazed out in the form of shimmering leaves and shadows. So shimmering means shining with the sunlight, and the shadow, that is the shade. The scene changes. Suddenly a strong flash, then another, startled me. He first saw one flash that was very strong, but what startled him is another one. 2 consecutive flashes, and then he says, so what he saw? Then he saw, I saw the old stone lantern brightly lit. So in front of his house there was a stone lantern. All of a sudden he saw it got lit up on its own, and then he says magnesium flares. So these magnesium flares are strong light that is generally used during any war or emergency situation. So he was in the doubt. That is why he has given a question mark, and he's asking why all of a sudden from where this old stone lantern caught light. And then he was in a doubt. Is it magnesium flares? While he was in this dilemma, I debated it. A debate or a doubt or dilemma was going in his mind. What he saw? In a second, just within a moment, the roof, the walls, as it seemed, the world collapsed in timber, debris and dust swirled around me. Everything around him, that is the houses, the buildings, that is timber, that is wood, debris, all broken into parts, just swirled, and everywhere it was dust. Swirling means moving around. So in just a flash of moment, everything collapsed around him, and he was standing in the garden. He has come out, and weird means strange. What is strange about himself? What he found? He found that his drawers, that is his underpant, and undershirt, that is his vest, disappeared. All of a sudden his clothes too disappeared. A splinter jutted from my mangled thigh, wounded, and he found a splinter. Splinter means a piece of wood or glass, anything, that was stuck in his wounded thigh. His right side bled, and my cheek was torn, so his face was hurt. What was his condition? A splinter jutted from his mangled thigh. His right side bled, his cheek was torn, there was a cut in his cheek, and then what he did, he dislodged, he just took it out, that piece of glass, detachedly a piece of glass. All the time wondering what had come to pass. Since he saw that flashes, he was, and then his own injury, He just went on thinking, what has happened? What had come to pass means what had happened? What is going around? Then suddenly, a thing that struck in his mind is his wife. He asked, where was my wife? Alarmed. He has become alert. I gave a shout. Where are you, Yuko-san? Yuko-san is the name of his wife. My blood gushed out. All of a sudden, he could feel that blush gushing out. The artery in my neck, that means an artery in his neck had burst, and scared for my life, he could not understand what to do, so he became scared. He called out. He was panic stricken to my wife. Panic stricken because he could not see. After calling out, then also she was not appearing. Pale, bloodstained, frightened, Yuko-san emerged. So then his wife appeared in front of him, but her condition was also not normal. She was also wounded. She was bloodstained. She was also pale in anxiety. She was also lost, like the poet or the narrator, what had happened, and frightened, as nobody could understand what had happened. Holding her elbow, we'll be fine, I urged. So Yuko-san, his wife, appeared in front of him, pale, blood-stained, frightened, and holding her elbow. So maybe her hand or elbow was badly injured. It was bleeding. Then he said, we will be fine, I urged. Let's go quickly to the hospital. Stumbling to the street, but they could not walk straight or could not walk smoothly. They were stumbling to the street. We fell, tripped by something at our feet. Why did they fell? They fell because something they found, or they had a hurdle in front of them. So, and then I gasped out when I saw it was a head. So on what did they trip over? They tripped over a head. Excuse me, please, excuse me. Out just like casually it came out of his mouth, excuse me, but then he realized it was just a head. That means somebody's head, cut head. That means the person is dead. A gate had crushed him. The gate had fallen on the person and the person's head was cut. There we stood afraid, and then that scene made them afraid. And then they saw a house standing before us, tilted, swayed, toppled, and crashed. What happened? Another scene in the first part, when we read in the last page, that is page number 17, he saw timbers, debris, and dust swirled around him. Now he is seeing another destruction, that is a house standing. It was standing straight in front of him. All of a sudden it started swaying. It got tilted bit, okay, got slanted at one side, then it swayed. It started moving this side and that side, and then it toppled. It started falling down, and finally it crashed. Fire sprang up in the dust, and then here and there was fire spread by the wind. So the fires were spread by the wind. Fire was getting spread. It dawned on us, we must get to the hospital. So sometimes for that moment they got stuck at the scenes around them. Then it came to his mind that they were supposed to go to the hospital. So he said that let us get to the hospital. We needed aid. Aid means medical help. They needed some medical assistance, and I should help my staff too. Staff too means the staff of the hospital. That means he now understood others have also got injured. Though this made sense to me then, I wondered how I could. He himself was so helpless. So how is it possible for him to help someone else? My legs gave away. He was unable to stand. I sat down on the ground. Thirst seized me. He was extremely thirsty, but no water could be found. My breath was short. He was breathing heavily. But bit by bit my strength seemed to revive, but slowly or gradually he got back his strength. There was revival in his energy, and then I got up at length. Initially he could not stand. But then slowly and slowly he got back his energy, he got back his strength, and then he stood up. I was still naked. There was no clothes on his body, but I felt no shame. Why? This thought disturbed me somewhat till I came upon a soldier standing silently who gave me the towel round his neck to me. So then he came across a soldier and then was standing quietly. He was not able to speak, and the soldier gave a towel round his neck to me. That means his artery in the neck also was bleeding, so he gave the poet or the narrator that towel. And what happened? My leg stiff with dried blood rebelled. That blood, that means he was bleeding profusely. The blood got dried, it got stuck on his body, and that was hindering his progress to walk. He was unable to walk due to the dry blood. It was totally dry, and it was causing a problem for the narrator to move forward as it was getting sticky. I said to Yoko-san, she must go on ahead. So when the poet is or the narrator is unable to move fast, it was taking time. He was taking time to move, or he was rather struggling to move forward. He said to his wife that you are able to walk properly, so you can just go ahead, go to the hospital. She did not wish to, but in our distress, what choice had we? But Yoko-san refused. She declined his request, and then because in our distress, but basically generally you can say when people are in problems, it's not possible for anyone to care or to see here and there. First thing is first, and here both of them needed medical aid. And as Yoko-san was able to walk, she could. That is why the narrator said, "Go ahead," because he was unable to move. It will take time for him, and they needed the medical attention immediately. It was an emergency, so there was no time to waste. But at first, his wife was a bit hesitant to leave him alone and go ahead. But in a distress or in an emergency situation, generally people don't have any choice. A dreadful loneliness came over me after she left. When she had gone, when his wife left for the hospital, then he felt a dreadful loneliness. My mind ran at high speed. My body crept behind. His mind and body was not synchronized. There was no synchronization. That means his mind was running faster. He wanted to run with his wife, but then his body was not, his body was not in a condition that he could move faster. I saw the shadowy forms of people. Shadowy forms of people are looking like ghosts. Some were ghosts, some scarecrow, all were wordless, dumb. This point to be noted, all were wordless, dumb, all were unable to speak. Some arms were stretched out. That means they were walking or they were standing with their hands straight. Shoulder to dangling hand. Some hands were dangling from the shoulders. It took some time for me to understand. The poet at first could not understand what is actually wrong with them or why their hands are straight, why they have stretched out their arms. The friction on their burns caused so much pain. So the flesh, the burnt flesh or the burnt skin, people are burnt all over. So the burnt flesh were causing pain when they are coming in contact with other flesh. So that is why, to prevent them from that pain, to prevent themselves from that pain, it was intolerable. So they had stretched out their hands so there should not be any friction. " They feared to chafe flesh against flesh again. Okay, so the burnt flesh were like dry, so they were just hanging or coming out, those burnt flesh. And chaff means here rubbing to become, it's very sore by rubbing against something. So that chapped flesh, and those who could shuffled in a blank parade towards the hospital, and those who could, they just shuffled means here walking by dragging one's feet without fully lifting the feet from the ground, or the one foot and then the another foot from the ground. They were just dragging their legs, that is called shuffled, in a blank parade. Blank parade, nobody means, parade means you walk for some reason, that is called parade. Here there is no reason, people are just walking as far as they all want to reach hospital, and those who are able, they are going towards the hospital. I saw dismayed, then he came across another sight, that is a woman with a child stand in my path, that means in the middle of his path, both naked. Both here means the child and the woman. Had they come back from the bath, I turned my gaze, as if they have just come out of their bath. People bath without clothes, so they are also without clothes, appear just they have come out of their bath. And then I turned my gaze. He could not look at that sight, but was at a loss that she could stand thus, till I came across a naked man. He is saying, or he is thinking, how she could stand thus. That means without clothes. And then he himself looked at himself and understood. Then I came across. Then he came across another man, a naked man. Here, one common feature throughout the poem is all are without clothes and all are without words. They are unable to speak and all are naked. So he came across this woman and the child, and then he came across another man, and now the thought arose that some strange thing has stripped us of our clothes. And then he understood, when all the people around him are naked, that means some strange factor is there that is making us, or that has made us remove all our clothes. Something or somewhere is there, though he could not understand what is that. Then the face of an old woman on the ground was marred. Marred means was ruined with suffering, but she made no sound. Her face was injured, could not be recognized properly because of the injury on the face. But then she was having suffering. Her expression, her facial expression showed that she was suffering, she was in pain. But at the same time, she could not utter any cry for help, or cry of pain, or groaning. Silence was common to us all. So silence and nakedness, these two things were common. I heard no cries of anguish or a single word. The last line ends with their same condition continuing. No cries of anguish. People were suffering. People should have groaned, cried out for help, cried out of pain, but there was no such thing, or a single word. Not a single word could be spoken by anyone. So here we come to the end of the poem. I hope my line by line explanation that I have given to you would prove helpful, and if it is it really proves helpful, or it comes to of any use, then I'll be really delighted. And if you like my explanation, or if you like my teaching, then please do like, share and subscribe my channel, and meet you in the next video with further explanation. We'll discuss this chapter only. In the next video I'll be discussing this chapter only regarding the background and other questions, and I'll again discuss the possible questions, short questions, that is your RTC, reference to the context.